Hello everyone, my name is Dion. In this video, I'm going to be showing you 7 of the best ways to save battery and extend the battery life on your Apple Watch, all without sacrificing key features and functionality. Now whether you have a Series 3, SE, or Series 6, these tips apply to all models. When I did my Apple Watch review, I said the battery life ranges between 10 to 50 hours of use. This is a very broad range, and this is because the battery performance on the Apple Watch really depends on what settings and features you activate. Now this is of course quite subjective, since we all have different preferences. That said, today I will show you how I set up these settings and features on my watch that allow me to comfortably get around 35 hours of use per charge. Again, while maintaining what for me are the features and experience that make the Apple Watch so great. Let's dive in. Alright, so first of all, we're going to be taking a look at background app refresh. To access this in the Apple Watch app, click on General, and then click on Background App Refresh. Now by default, this feature is activated for all apps, meaning that all apps on your Apple Watch have the ability and will be constantly running and refreshing in the background. You can imagine this has a substantial impact on battery life. Now for this, I encourage you to think about what apps you actually enjoy or end up using day to day. The Apple Watch has dozens of apps, however, I find myself using no more than around 5 frequently. As you can see, for the vast majority of my apps, I turned off background refresh. This simply means that the app will reload every time you launch it. I highly recommend doing this on your iPhone too. Next up, notifications. Each notification that comes in needs to be fetched from your phone. This activates the haptic feedback sensor and speaker on your watch, and turning on the display when you look at them. If you have, say, dozens of notifications coming in each day, not only can this be distracting, but again will greatly impact your battery life. Just like with background app refresh we looked at previously, think about the apps that you use and what you want to be notified of. For example, I only allow notifications that are useful or important to me, such as for messaging apps, certain social media, transport, and banking. Other apps such as games, photo editing, or utility apps really don't need to be giving me notifications throughout the day, so therefore turn these off. This will not just save you battery, but also time. Now let's take a look at the display. First, we're going to go into General and then click on Wake Screen. This is how I set up my wake screen settings. Now what options you see in my app may vary slightly depending on what model Apple Watch you have. I have a Series 3 and this is what the options look like for me. You can see I only wake the screen when I raise the wrist, not using the crown up feature, only because I simply don't find myself using that feature. On tap, my display turns off after 15 seconds. I find this to be more than long enough to check the time or read a notification. Speaking of the display, going into the display and brightness setting, I advise you to turn the brightness to medium or low. I found the auto brightness on the Apple Watch is very quick and effective. If you're in bright sunlight, regardless of what brightness settings you use, the display, when it needs to, will turn up to the max, allowing you to still use and see the watch. Now if you have an Apple Watch Series 5 or Series 6 with an always-on display, you could consider turning this feature off, as on these models the biggest load on the battery is that always-on display. On the other hand, you may value this feature and choose to keep it on instead. And this brings us to sound and haptics. I like to have my watch on silent, not just for battery, but also because the haptic feedback on the Apple Watch is very effective and non-intrusive. I find the loud ding notification sound to be more distracting and unnecessary, because the watch is always on my wrist, meaning you'll always feel the vibrations. And as a bonus, of course, activating the speaker less will also serve to preserve more battery. Let's take a look at Siri. Now, I like Siri. I use it almost every day for notifications or setting timers. However, how you activate Siri makes a big difference. As you can see, I only activate Siri by pressing on the digital crown. Of course, having the activation phrase for Siri on is just a little bit easier, but I was shocked to see the difference this makes in battery life. If you have this feature activated, the mic will be constantly on, listening for that activation phrase. You could also choose to turn off the voice feedback feature, but I like to keep this on. And this brings us to the watch face. Because all Apple Watch models have an OLED display, they can turn off black or unused pixels. Therefore, the more that are off, the less battery is being used. Using a more minimalistic watch face uses less pixels, therefore less battery. Additionally, be mindful of what and how many complications you use. Now, I find this to be a very useful feature and I certainly use a few, But that said, I am mindful of what complications I use, as each complication operates as a small app, essentially running in the background and fetching new data to show you every time you raise your wrist. Now, heart health is one of the big features why many people choose to buy an Apple Watch. Personally, even as someone who is in good health, I like to keep all of these settings on as I find it reassuring and interesting to see the data. However, for others, this may not be an important feature, in which case turning off both or one of these settings will extend your battery life further. Importantly, even if you turn these settings and features off, the heart rate monitor will still function using the heart rate app, from which you can do a manual reading whenever you like. At the end of the day, it's really about finding a balance between the features you value and want to keep activated versus the features that are running and taking battery life that you don't really use. Being able to optimize giving you the best of both worlds in terms of features as well as battery life. Let me know if you have any questions or know of any tips that I didn't mention. Also, I'm curious to hear, what Apple Watch model do you have and how many hours of battery life do you get? Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and if you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend you check out my full 2021 Apple Watch Series 3 review. Thank you very much for watching.